Hello, YouTube. Gotta get everything all organized here. I'm gonna put some better lights on, just a sec. Okay, hello. I just turned up the lights here because my YouTube is really dark. Got a couple cameras going here. I'm also on YouTube. This is where I save these lives. If you're interested in watching them again, they are saved. So while we're waiting for people to turn up, I'd love to know where you're from, how old your kids are, and if you're new here, you can answer one or none or all three or two. So anyway, I'm here in Vancouver, Canada. My kids are 28 and 33, and I'm expecting a granddaughter, my first grandchild, in December. So it's exciting. That's where I'm at. I'm at a different stage in life from most of you. So Minnesota. You know, I always think, oh, Brenda, you've been here before. I always say Mary Tyler Moore, right? Or that's Minneapolis, sorry. Minneapolis. Is it Minnesota? Was she from Minneapolis? Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul. Sorry, Minnesota. Got that wrong. Sorry about that. It was a long time ago. You probably don't even know that show, Mary Tyler Moore. Okay. Lots of time. Yes. I know, Brenda. I know that name. I get mostly regulars on here, so if you're new, I'm always interested to see how many people turn up. I'm also doing, how many new people turn up. I'm also doing lives on, I'm your age. Oh, you are? Oh, okay. You're 63? You look good. Your picture is really tiny. I can't see much. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, I'm also doing lives on, I'm replacing my Thursday live here, and I'm doing them on Instagram and YouTube. So I'm always doing YouTube at the same time. Hello, I can't read your name there. Someone on YouTube turned up. YouTube, I'm just sort of getting going on YouTube. It's a different beast altogether. Instagram's picking up. I'm getting about 5 times more views on Instagram than I am on TikTok now. Isn't that bizarre? I don't know why that is. I don't understand it. Where are your glasses? Oh, I had LASIK surgery done. Yeah. So I haven't gone gray yet. That's something. I don't think I'll dye my hair when I go gray. Evidently, we don't go gray in our family. So weird, eh? It can be 100 and you're still not gray. It's bizarre. Okay, so let's get going with your parenting questions. And if you want to know what I've got to offer, you can look in the link above. That's got my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my big boot camp course for 3 to 12-year-olds, and the next level up is coaching. If you want to work with me, it's all done on Zoom, but one hour per week is how we operate. So, okay, let's get going with your parenting questions. Thank you very much, Gracie. And the rose, thank you. Very nice. I still don't know what all that means. It's a sign of appreciation, though, that much I know. Thank you very much. Lucky you, I already have gray hairs. Yeah, we all get stuff, right? We all have something. So yeah, I got the wrinkles and the saggy skin, but I haven't got the gray hair yet. But I'm in my 60s. I like getting older. I like my 60s. Okay, so parenting questions. Let's get going with that. Yeah, I did my first Instagram live last week. I really enjoyed it. Okay, my 18-month-old hits. He doesn't talk a lot, so yeah, you don't talk to toddlers about, when you're there. That's not their language. Their language is actions. They can talk, they can understand a little bit anyway, but that's not their language. Their language is physical and observing. They're watching. Okay. So anyway, what you do with under the age of 3 is whenever they do something naughty, you say no, and then you make sure there's sort of a negative reaction to it. Like you can just remove them away from the situation, take a toy away. If they hit you, just say no. You take their hand and say no. Then you might calmly get up and go and do your chores or whatever you want to do. Don't look angry. Never look angry. Just let them know, no, and then you physically restrain them. If they come at you again, you restrain them before they hit you the next time. Anyway, I have a whole course on that. It's one of my mini toddler courses, toddlers who hit, bite, etc. Can never come up with a good name for that. How else could I word that? Toddlers who hit, bite. And I don't want to call them aggressive toddlers. I was going to call them toddler aggression, but I don't really want to call it that. How do you respond to no? I don't. I ignore it. But I make stuff happen. Like if you ask them, look, you got to get your shoes on. We're heading out the door now. And they say no. Well, I would pick them up and pick up their shoes and I'd take them out to the car. Like I don't repeat myself. So, and that's just one little tiny example. There's a million different directions that can go in. So, I never really told my kids what to do. I just sort of laid out expectations, like we leave for school at 8 a.m. So make sure everything's ready. If you're all ready to go, then you can watch some TV before we go. They just they felt like they had a lot of control in their life. Like they sort of knew you got to do what you need to do before you can do what you want to do. I taught them that when they were really little, and they were self-disciplined right throughout the teen years. So yeah, I never heard no because they felt like they had control. That's a whole other thing. That's yeah, that how do I explain that? Okay. I should go on about that, shouldn't I? I'll do a video. Why I never told my kids what to do. I'll do a video on that. Why I never had to tell my kids what to do. Because they already knew and they just did it. I used to say to my kids, your life is your choice. You make good choices, your life is good. You make bad choices, I'll make sure your life isn't so good. That's my job. I'm your mother. So I just taught them that whatever you put out, you get back. And yeah, you can still ask questions, Gracie, but I can't really, if you're a babysitter, I just teach parenting. So here's the thing. If you want to pretend you're a parent, you can ask, but I'm going to give you, you can't impose what I tell you necessarily on someone else's kids. Like if I'm around other people's kids, I never say anything. I just sit there and do whatever. But if I'm in charge of the kids, then I do. But I can't tell a babysitter how to deal with other people's kids. This is when he doesn't get what he wants. When he does, how do I correct him like consequence? What was the original question? Just a sec here. That looked like a two-parter. I got to look for the first part. Oh, I don't see it. Don't see it. Okay. Oh. How did you encourage good manners? Okay, here's the thing. You're not going to believe this, but when I'm working with people, they get it. Once they start, they just have to follow through what I tell them. Once you're a leader, they respect you. It's organic. You don't demand good manners, you command them. And you give respect to get it. You don't yell. You probably yell right now, but we fix that, right? So it just happens organically. Like, and my kids never said, I hate you or anything like that. They just, why would they? I was a leader. They looked up to me. Why would they say they hated me when they looked up to me? I made them feel good about themselves. They liked themselves when they were with me. We had fun. We were best friends. We had a blast. So why would they be rude to me? It doesn't make any sense. It's like a really good sports coach or a mentor, someone you look up to. Would you be rude to them? Let's say you have a boss that you just love and treats you really well and they respect you and you respect them. Would you be rude to them? No. So you don't encourage good manners, you just command them. It happens organically when you're a leader. It's all I teach here is leadership. Discipline's this much of parenting. Parenting is all about bonding, connecting with your kids, making them feel good about themselves. You want your kids to like themselves. That's your goal, is you want your kids to like themselves. When I used to mentor troubled teens, they used to say, I didn't even like myself till I met you. So that was always my goal. If they liked themselves when they were with me, I had a lot of power. I had a lot of influence over them. So you got to be very careful with that too, because that's serious. If you're the only person that's ever made them feel good about themselves and you don't respect that position that you're in, I'll tell you, that's a lot of responsibility. I loved it. Okay. How do I help 4.5-year-old crying over silly things? Well, I don't know what's going on there. You know, I always say if you're meeting their needs and managing their wants, that doesn't really happen. And part of their needs is you being a leader. So if you're a leader, that they don't tend to cry much or anything. They just don't. They just don't. When you're a calm leader and they feel very safe with you, they feel very safe with a leader. And when they feel safe with you, it tends to calm them down. They just sort of, it's just everything kind of falls into place. Tell you a funny story. I haven't told this story in a long time. Anyway, it was great. My kids were in grade 2. One of my kids was in grade 2. Anyway, and all the moms turned up for activity day. We were and I used to be there a lot. I used to work with the kids. I was always working with the challenging kids up the back of the classroom, right? That I was just volunteering. That was what I did. So I just loved that. So anyway, we had this activity day where a whole bunch of moms turned up and we were splitting the class into groups. We were doing this activity thing. So, and the moms, I was always laughing, and because they were always saying, "Oh, you're so tough," because I always talk tough. I hate kids. Oh, not other people's kids, just my own. I'm always cracking jokes, right? So they sort of, I don't know why, but the other moms thought, well, no, none of the kids are going to want to be with you, right? So I said, fine, I don't care. So they were teasing me, right? This is in Australia. I was Canadian too, so I really stood out. So anyway, so the kids all asked to be in my group, and all the moms were kind of surprised at that. And then we all split up, and all their groups were chaos. They were just, the kids were yelling, and the mothers were trying to, come on, let's get going. My group, I had it all organized. They were having they were really proud of themselves because they were really respectful. But I was fun. I knew how to organize it and hold their interest. So my group is all controlled and everything. And the parents, all their moms kept looking over at me like, what is she doing? How come it's so easy for her? Anyway, this was the funny part. Because I always say I'm really tough with kids. I don't put up with any crap at all. And they know that, and they're really good for me. But also they like that. They like it when they're with a leader. Anyway, this is the funny part. They were in grade 2, and the fire alarm went. It was not planned. It wasn't scheduled. So some kid had just pulled it. So it scared the kids. They were just grade 2. They didn't run to the teacher, and they didn't even run to their moms. They all ran to me. Why would they do that? Why would a bunch of little kids run to me and not the teacher and not the moms? Because I was the strongest leader in the room. It makes them feel safe. Leadership makes children feel safe. It calms them down. So anyway, that answers your question. Work on yourself. Remember, we're never fixing kids. We're fixing and teaching parents here. Set yourself up as a leader, and everything else just falls into place. It's interesting because when people first hire me in the first session, they have a zillion questions. And I say, don't waste your money. Just listen, do what I tell you to do, and then we'll talk. Then week 2, we'll see how things went. We'll tweak it, and then you just do what I tell you to do. By week 3, if you still have those same questions, then ask them. And they don't. They start to get it. Everything starts to fall into place. So. Oh, by the way, did those kids like me or love me more than their mothers? No, they just felt safe, right? It's like if there's a fire, you run to the firemen, probably not your parents. I'm going to tell you another funny story. This is kind of off topic. It just struck me as hilarious. Years ago, my daughter was a worrier, and she was little. Maybe she was 10. And so in the middle of the night, I woke up in the middle of the night, and I could smell gas, like a gas leak. Scared the bejeebies out of me. I think my son was there too. I ran down. I woke him up. He would have been 15 at the time. I woke him up. We turned off the furnace, the gas, and everything. Whatever. I looked around. Anyway, so I called 911. You do that right away. Opened up all the windows, and she was a worrier. She was just one of those kids. She worried about everything. So she's fast asleep. My son and I are wide awake, and the firemen come to the door. And it was stupid. I'm really fussy with housework. I said to them, "Would you mind removing your boots?" I'm so fussy. I don't like shoes in my house. And they said, "Ma'am, we don't fight fires in socks." So they keep their boots on. How dumb was I? Eh? Anyway, this is the funny part. So we go up. They had to go in every single room and check, to see where the smell. They could smell it too. And oh no, it was a burning smell. It wasn't a gas leak. It was a burning smell. That was it. It turned out the furnace had burned itself out or something happened. Anyway, so we go into my daughter's room, and she wakes up, and there's like 4 firemen and me in there, and they've got axes and everything, firemen. She wakes up, and I say, "It's okay, sweetie, it was just a scare, go back to sleep." And she goes right back to sleep. Now, she's such a worrier. Why on earth did that not? We go in with firemen with axes. That didn't worry her. She worried over the dumbest things. Anyway, so yeah, the firemen don't fight fire in socks. Remember that. Learn from my mistake. Okay. Sorry, I just had to tell that story. Just struck me as funny. How do I get my 2-year-old to listen when I try to discipline her? All she does is cry. Okay, are you disciplining her with words? They're not listening to you, they're watching you. So under the age of 3, it's all consistent corrective actions. I have a whole bunch of videos. I just did one maybe a week ago, how to discipline toddlers. Might have just been a couple days ago. So check that out. Also, you can look, I don't have a course on toddlers, but you can look above, and if the 3 to 12-year-olds, it gives you a little bit of heads up on what's coming too. So you can be prepared for when they're 3. But under the age of 3, you don't use the behavior board because it's not about words. They don't understand. Maybe they don't stop and think before they act. It's all impulse, okay? And they don't think about things before they do it. But they learn through a knee-jerk reaction, and it takes a while, though. So it's consistent corrective actions because they learn through repetition. They don't learn right away. It might take 50 times. It might take 150 times. But anyway. What makes a strong leader? A strong leader, oh geez, how long could I go on about that? A strong leader. I'll tell you, I'd say the most important skill is to make kids feel good about themselves. That's my power. I make kids feel good about themselves. That was my power. That was my superpower. I made them proud of themselves. And whenever anyone asked, how do you do that? How come the kids are so good with you? I said, because I make them like themselves. They're proud of themselves when they're with me. There's a whole bunch that goes into that, but I used to mentor troubled teens, and that's where I really learned it. I thought, oh, wow, this is beautiful. Think about it. If you feel good about yourself when you're with someone, it just works with everybody, adults, everybody. If you're with someone who makes you feel good about yourself, would you ever be rude to that person? Think about it. So make them feel good about themselves. Set them up for success. Deal with bad behavior, but then focus on the good kid. Put your energy into focusing on the good kid. Deal with bad behavior, get it over and done with really quickly, very calmly and quietly. Didn't like that? Here's the consequence. Do you understand? And then go back to, hey, do you want to go to the park? It's like now that that's done, you don't focus on that. You don't focus on the discipline. Okay, my daughter's 6. When she sees me talking to anyone, she interrupts me and becomes rude. Okay, so she's just basically in a power trip with you. Work on your leadership skills. Check out my boot camp course. It'll set you up as a leader. That's what that's all about. And that wouldn't happen. You can't, if she's that rude to you right now, she's interrupting constantly, you got a lot of work to do. So I would suggest get organized with this. If you don't want to buy the course, then just try my behavior board and put down no interrupting and have a consequence every time she does. Okay? Yeah. Just means she doesn't respect you. That's all. 4-year-old's very emotional, frowning, moody, especially in front of people. What do I do? Again, it's the same answer. That has nothing to do with the child. We're not fixing kids here. It just says to me they don't respect you. They don't have a leader. Children who have leaders don't act like that. They just don't. Yeah, it just doesn't happen. How long is too long for a tantrum? Cried forever tonight. Yeah, they can go on for quite some time. You know, they'll up it a little bit if they see you changing and maybe they can't get their own way. If you've ever given into a tantrum, they remember that. They remember your mistakes like you wouldn't believe. If you get it right 99 times out of 100, they're going to remember the one time you got it wrong. Kids are just like that. They have a memory as a sieve, like a sieve for when you do something right. When you do something wrong, it's a vault. They remember it. So you got to be really, really consistent. The longer the tantrum goes on, that sort of says to me that they know if they keep pushing it, they might get their own way. You might cave and give in. That's what that says to me. But she's only 2, or he's only 2, whatever. They could just be trying it out, like could just be temporary. They go through stages. Why are the first 7 years of parenting crucial? I don't know. I'm not a scientist or a doctor or a psychologist. But what they say is they're really forming in those first 7 years. You basically form your opinion. This is the way I look at it. You form your opinion of yourself in those first 7 years. And you can change that, yes, but you really form, and it's all done through observation. They're not listening to you, they're watching you. So no matter what you say to them, oh, never drink, never smoke, never swear, but if you're doing all those things, they're more likely to do it because they're watching you. So watch what you do. You know, you want to model what you want from them. So if you're a yeller, they'll become yellers. It's just the way it is. They're watching you. It's all done through observation. That was some scientist I saw a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about that. It seemed to be some new thing they came out with. Or he was just reiterating, it's all observation. It's not words. And this was up to the age of 7. They're watching you. They're always watching you. That's why body language and tone of voice are so important. Also, I've coached parents who said, I do everything you say and it's not working. And especially if they've got a teenager, I did exactly what you said. I said, okay, now I'll pretend I'm your teenager and you go through that scene again with me. Sure enough, I'll see something they've done. Like it can be subtle. They can say, now I'm not happy with that. So you know the consequence is this. And then they'll do this. They'll go, you know the consequence is this. So the 24-hour media blackout starts now. They'll roll their eyes. You don't do that. So I'll say, there you go. That's why it tanked. It's a very patronizing thing to do. It's very confrontational. It's an escalator. So, but yeah, body language is so important. Like if, let's say another situation is when you're arguing with your teenager, which you never want to do. So if you're arguing with a teenager and then you say something like this, we'll talk about it later when you calm down. Woo, what a bad thing to say. Here's what you say. Say, I'll tell you what, let's pick this up later after dinner. I'm just going to get dinner on the go, okay? And then you walk away. Don't tell them to calm down. So yeah, parents will often say, I did everything you said and it just tanked. And I'm like, well, let's see what you did. And then they go, oh, and then I'll show them how it looks, right? We go back and forth. So body language, facial expressions, tone of voice, it is so important. Like when I'm disciplining, my son used to say, if my mom ever whispers, run, because that's when I'm disciplining. If I'm very, very goofy, very loud, very crazy with kids, but if they act out, I get real quiet. I go, didn't like what you just did. I'll tell you what, here's a consequence, okay? So that's how I talk when I'm disciplining. And then I go right back to I go right back to being what I was before. I don't hold a grudge. I don't drag it out. They're not in the doghouse. I've already dealt with it. The pool story is the best example. I've just said that story so many times, you probably don't want to hear it again. But the pool story explains that so well. Okay, 3-year-old that says bad words. Use my behavior board. That's free in the link above. And you put down, the rule is no bad words. Whenever they say a bad word, there's a consequence. Check it out. The behavior board explains how to do that. It's free. Okay, I yelled at my kid for the first time the other day. Most of my clients yell. It's so rare I get clients who don't yell. And these are highly successful, people who run big corporations, doctors, lawyers, child psychologists, teachers, principals. I get all those people as clients. They say, I yell at my kids. What's wrong with me? And I say, well, you just don't know what else to do. Let's get to work and I'll tell you what else to do. So yeah, don't beat yourself up over it. Everyone does it. Okay, I never yelled, but I already knew what else to do. I was never yelled at either. So yeah, my mother was a great inspiration for me. She always made me feel very respected and heard. And my dad did too. He was the pleaser. He let me get away with stuff. Mom had mom's look, the look. So anyway, she never really had to do anything. She just had the look. So, but anyway, yeah, yellers are very, very common. Don't worry about it. Don't beat yourself up. But if the child is 3 years old or over, you put no yelling as your rule on the behavior board. If parents yell, that's always their rule. That's the first week, is no yelling, always. And if you yell and you've got little kids, your consequence is play hide and seek with them for 10 minutes. Something like that. You were mean to them, now you be nice to them, right? It's like that. You only yell because you don't know what else to do. Don't beat yourself up over it. Okay. What about a child tantrum on a plane? How do we handle it? I can't give you any information on that. How could I possibly help you with that? No, can't do it. Planes their ears might pop. It's confined. It's too much. It's like yeah, I can't help you with that. I can't help you with traveling with kids on a plane. I can't help you with that. There's a lot going on there. It's loud. Their ears can pop. They can be in pain. They're bored. They're tired. They're uncomfortable. You just have to suffer through it. That's all you have to do. Sorry about that, but no. We used to travel overseas with our kids. They were really easy kids, but my son was 18 months the first time we went from Australia to Canada. 24 hours, he didn't sleep once. Not once. 24 hours. Did I mention it was 24 hours? 18 months old, didn't sleep once in 24 hours. He was a pretty easy little boy. Like he didn't tantrum the whole time or anything. Nothing. He was just fussing. And what are you going to do about that, right? I wish I could see you personally working with kids and teens. Yeah, I'm all done with all that. I'm 63 now. I did all that for 50 plus years. And plus, when I first started my business, I still used to work with teenagers. I would work with the teenagers on the side. Like I would talk to the teenagers and the parents. I don't do any of that anymore. I never talk to kids anymore. I figured out how to do it just by talking to the parents now. But yeah, it was great. I had a blast. Anyway, okay. How to discipline a 2-year-old. Look up how to discipline toddlers. I did a video on that a couple days ago, I think it was. So check that out. But they're not about words. They're not about consequences. They're about consistent corrective actions right in the moment, every single time. You have to be consistent, though. Consistent, corrective. So if they throw a toy, you pick that toy up and put it away where they can see it but can't touch it. So consistent corrective action. They're going to get worse before they get better. All of this stuff, they get worse before they get better because they remember the old you. They're going to fight to get the old you back. They're going to fight to get control again. And because they remember you gave in before. They're like, oh, she thinks she knows what she's doing now. She didn't know what she was doing yesterday. I'm going to take control again. They might not think that evilly, but run one rule per week for each person, yes. But your rule, the only thing that has to change is the kids' rules. Your rule and your consequence and their consequence never has to change depending on what it is. You're focused on their rule. It's really funny. Kids don't seem to notice that. It's hilarious. Also, when your consequence is playing with them, parents say, well, you mean that's punishment? Aren't the kids going to be upset about that? I've been doing this for 17 years. Not one kid, not ever, has said, you mean playing hide and seek with me is punishment for you? They're just thrilled you're doing it. So, yeah. Oh, I love your content. What are your thoughts on the book Explosive Child? I've never read a book on parenting your kids. I teach through my own experience, and I would never critique what someone else says anyway. Wouldn't do it. So yeah, it's none of my business. Like, I stay in my lane. So you shouldn't yell when getting them in trouble. Never. Yelling is a sign you're not in control. Yelling is a loss. And leaders don't yell. They never yell. Yeah, why would they? You know what else to do. Oh, you want to ask me about foster kids? I can't answer that. That's more coaching, and you already have to have the kids. I've dealt with a lot of abused children, and I have a lot of experience with that. But I can't answer. I can't give you any blanket statement about dealing with foster kids. Are they 1 day old? Are they 16 years old? What's their past? Were they abused? Were they physically, sexually, emotionally abused? Were they bounced around from home to home? It's too general. I can't possibly on TikTok here give you any blanket statement. My 4-year-old gets super irritable and angry at the end of the day when he's tired. Well, then there's nothing you can do about that. Just put him to bed. So that, you always meet their needs and manage their wants. If they're tantruming because they're tired, sick, or hungry, you feed them, you give them medicine. All the rules go out. All this leadership crap goes out the window when their needs aren't being met. You make sure that they're fed and they've slept, and you know what I mean. Consequences. Just look that up. I have my behavior board. It's completely free. Check it out, and it will explain. It's got some ideas and consequences, but there's 2 consequences for kids. Always. There's 1 for you, but there's 2 for kids. So the first one you start with is the positive action. So if they do something bad, then you have a positive action you want them to do. It's usually a chore or something like that. So if they won't do that, which is fine by me, I'm quite happy if they won't, because then you get to show even more leadership, beating your chest. And you say, okay, now we're going to have 24-hour media blackout. You take something away. So you chose not to empty the dishwasher. That was your consequence for throwing your dish across the floor or something. And you chose not to do it. Now it's 24-hour media blackout. Do you understand? Once you've said that, you cannot go back on that. You go back on it, leadership, you haven't got it. It just doesn't work. So, okay. How do you stop the yelling? Well, you start setting yourself up as a leader. That's what I teach. I teach leadership. That's all I teach. 99.9% of parenting is connecting and bonding with your kids. So they'll tell you everything. You're a safe place to land. They trust you. They like you. They want to be with you, and they trust you. So that's what leadership is. Discipline's a tiny part of it. They set up as a leader, you don't need to discipline. It doesn't make any sense. Like when you're a leader, they don't act out. Why would they? It doesn't make any sense. Because they respect you, and because they respect themselves too. So yeah. I just did a video on public tantrums. Did I? Let me just check it out. Did I post it already? I know I did one, but I often don't post them right away. So pretty sure I did them. I'm just going to check it out. Just a sec. I think I just did it today. Oh, I'm on the wrong thing. I've got so many different accounts everywhere. Just a sec here. Oh, I'm on the wrong account. I can't figure it out. Never mind. I'm pretty sure I just did a video on public tantrums. So you can check that out after the live. You don't necessarily stay calm and ignore it. You might have to move them away. If it's in a restaurant, don't do that to other people. It's not fair. You drag them out to the parking lot and then you ignore them. How to stop 3-year-old from escaping front doors, windows. We are locked down like self. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense to me. If you can't contain a 3-year-old, your locks aren't effective. So yeah, just work on that. There's no way I wouldn't take chances with that. What if they get out in the middle of the night? What if they run in the street? I wouldn't take chances with that. I would even hire someone to come in and secure the place. So yeah, I would. I would just I would. You say Fort Knox, but it isn't. A kid couldn't get out of Fort Knox. So yeah, but she is a locksmith. Yeah, I'm sure. People always give their kids more credit sometimes with stuff like that. Like, there's no way if I had a kid that was 3 years old, I would hire someone. There's no way that they would get out. It just wouldn't happen. Um, yeah. Even the keys would be all. I'd have a combination lock, and all the keys would be in the combination lock. There'd be like you can only lock the door by using a key. In Australia, that's how the locks are done a lot of the time. When I first moved there, like, you don't just flip a thing, you have to use a key to lock your door. It's quite interesting. I'm sure it's all changed now, but oh, tantrums when they're sick. No, I already said if they're sick or hungry or tired, you don't ignore them. You don't ignore a tantrum because you meet their needs and manage their wants. If they're sick, just let them have tantrums, coddle them through the tantrum, hold them, soothe them through the tantrum. There's no way I would ignore a sick child. Yeah, you meet their needs and manage their wants. Their needs are health, food, shelter, safety. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that comes first. Is my 1-year-old considered a toddler? Okay, I consider this is just my own about, the way I've figured it out. To me, a baby is 0 to 15 months. A toddler is 16 to 35 months. A preschooler is 3 and 4. A school age is 5 to 8. A preteen or teen is 9 to 12. 13 and up is a teenager. That's how I've done it. It's just how I've segmented it all. Makes sense to me. Anyway, I just read that all out. I was going to read it again, but I just read that all out. Your parenting changes drastically with a baby, a toddler, a school age, which I've bundled up the child with the preteen or teen in my course, the boot camp course. That's 3 to 12 years old, because your parenting is pretty much the same. They're very different, but your parenting, you're in full leadership mode in those years, 3 to 12, full leadership mode. And then by 13 and up, you want to pass the torch over to them, slowly but surely. You've got to give them more power, more control, more leadership on their own. You've got to give them more freedom, more respect for them making their own choices. And they also have to make their own mistakes too. Nothing wrong with that. We all did. So yeah, but yeah, your parenting changes drastically in the teen years. That's why parents struggle with teenagers. It's not the teenagers, it's that they don't adjust their parenting. Right? Doesn't that make sense? You got to adjust your parenting with teenagers. So it's not the teenagers, it's the parents. He was so good, all of a sudden, all the crap hit the fan. And I'm like, yeah, and how did you change your parenting when they turned 13 around there? Oh, well, I didn't. He changed. Yeah, but you didn't. Okay, my 3 top tips for parenting teenagers. They're my favorite age, by the way. You listen to understand and show empathy. You don't listen to gather information to lecture with. You listen to understand and show empathy, and then stop talking. If they want your advice, they'll ask for it. They already know it anyway, okay? They don't want to hear it. They'll tell you everything if you get good at listening. Number 2 is you negotiate pretty much everything. Hey, I want you home by 12 tonight, and they say, how about 1? You say, okay, let's split the difference and make it 12:30. And then the last one is don't sweat the small stuff. Save your energy for the big stuff. Allow them to make mistakes, just like you did. If they do something stupid, then you say something like this. Well, that was stupid. Wait to hear what I did when I was your age. Like, in other words, it's okay to make mistakes. I did it too. It's part of learning. Do you change your behavior when addressing tantrums at the top? Oh, well, I already answered that. Okay. I already answered that. Okay, I'm going to flip through here. He's 3 and doesn't listen to me. Yeah, check out my boot camp course, that 3 to 12-year-old. That'll really set you up as a leader. If you just want to check out my behavior board, do that. I would suggest you do that first anyway. Check out the behavior board. That's completely free, and it'll teach you how to set up a behavior board. And you don't put down listen to me. That's ridiculous. That's like saying respect me. You just start small with different rules. And what happens is you're learning how to be a leader by using that behavior board. They are not going to get on board right away. They might. Sometimes you have the honeymoon week or the hell week. I never know which one it's going to be in that first week. So, because when they turn 3, they often find their power. But they only do that if you're not a leader. they go, oh, wait a minute, you're not a leader. I think I will be. So that's often, they get really feisty when they turn 3. It just means you're not a leader. So work on your leadership skills. Start with my behavior board. Then you want to check out my boot camp course if you're interested. Or you can hire me if you want the next level up. Oh, you're asking about childcare workers. I don't teach that. I've never been a childcare worker, so I only teach parenting. I got the biggest compliment the other day. It was 2 days ago, I think it was. This lady said, I work for CPS and I recommend your channel to my clients. I thought, wasn't that sweet? Isn't that nice? That was one of the, I get a lot of really lovely stuff, but that was just beautiful. I thought that was so, if I'm helping them, I'm thrilled. If I'm helping anyone struggling, I am thrilled. What would you, okay, how would you address a 3-year-old if she continues to walk away from you after you ask them to come to you? Well, I probably wouldn't. That's in the department. If a kid did that to me, what I would do. I'd go, ooh, what am I doing wrong here? Look in the mirror. Are you a leader? Like if they walk away from you, are you a leader? I got a few creative ideas. There's a whole bunch of stuff I only talk about in coaching because I don't want everybody to try it. It's after people understand this is because I get to know them better. But there's something that I do with a 3-year-old that walks away from me, but I can't tell you here because if you just start there without all the other information, it could appear mean. But once they understand what's going on in the house, the changes that are taking place, there's certain things I would do for that for sure. Like I'm so evil. It's a good one. Anyway, I can't tell you that right now because you don't have all the other information to lead up to it. So just basically work on your leadership skills. Start with my behavior board and just pick a rule. Do not say, don't walk away from me because that's attitude. You never put attitude on the behavior board. Their bad attitude is your lack of leadership. That's all it is. That's all it is. You want me to tell what it is? It's a bad one. It's one of those, and I don't use it with all clients. Let's say, oh, I don't even want to say it. It sounds so awful, but it works really well sometimes. Oh, shoot. Oh, now I have to say it now, don't I? Okay, let me set this up. Let's say you have a 5-year-old who chooses not to listen to you. They walk away. Let's say it's 5 years old. I mean, I would do it with a 3-year-old too, but it's a little bit different. So it's easier if I say 5-year-old. So you say, oh, can you come over here? We're just going to have dinner. And they walk away from you. I would say, and what I would say is, oh, and I'm handing out $5, something like that. And then they might come running back. And then I would finish with, for all the kids who don't walk away when I say dinner's ready. And then I would give $5 to the other kids. It is kind of nasty. It's a little bit, but this is after I've already done some work with the family. And it's kind of one of my things. I use a little bit of humor and the kids, yeah, it works. Believe me, it works. But I've already got some base stuff going on with the parents. Okay. You can't just start with that. That would be very mean if you just started with that, but they've already got some other work under their belt. I wouldn't even use that till probably week 3 or 4 or even week 5 of working with me. But yeah, I do all sorts of stuff like that in coaching. And they say, boy, and you know what's funny is after they've been working with the kids for a while, the kid doesn't even cry. Because they go, oh, I get it now. I get it. See? So you don't start with that, though. That's my warning. Don't start with that. It actually could be construed as mean. We have to do some base work first. How do I help my 4-year-old with bath and showers? Well, I mean, the obvious stuff is get fun stuff, okay? And like get you the oh, my kids love those soap crayons and all. I used to have tons of stuff. I used to love that stuff. It first was invented I was born in 1960. And I can remember that foam that you could make boats out of it. It would sit on top of the water. I love that stuff. Ivory soap, I would build boats out of that too with the foam. So yeah, obviously fun stuff in the tub. Also, something that I don't like to resort to this, but if they really hate, some of them have an aversion to water. They just do. They'll go in swimming pools though. So go figure. Anyway, yeah. So anyway, have a show that they love or a song that they love and say it only plays while you're in the bath. So have it on the iPad or something and say, this only plays when you're in the bath and that's it. So yeah, it's a little bit of bribery there, but that's okay sometimes. You want to get them clean. Tips for 2 under 2. Oh, just hang on, buckle up. I mean, that is a lot of work. It's physical. It's physically draining because you're in hardcore teaching mode with those kids. They're learning. and they're not going to learn right away. And they're going to do a whole bunch of stuff that you go, geez, I just thought I had them figured out and sorted out. And then they come up with this, you know? So yeah, it's just hardcore, a lot of work. They're cute as a button, but they're my least favorite age. I like them when I was home with them because I had my house child-proofed. Oh, I'm going to tell you my top 5 tips for toddlers. Anyway, but I hated going out with toddlers because you can't relax and enjoy yourself. If I went to a friend's house, all I'm doing is following my toddler around because I don't know what their house is like. I was the only house that was really child-proofed. My top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. Oh, people love bringing their kids to my house. It was child-proofed, the whole house. I didn't have anything from the waist down. All the plants were up high, everything. So yeah, they could just relax. Okay, here's my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. It's a mouthful. Child-proof your home so you never have to say no, and it makes your life easier. Set up a toy rotation system so they're never bored. When you want to bond with your toddler, you enter their world. You get down on the floor and play like they play. You watch how they play and mimic them. They will just start to look at you differently. They're going to start to connect with you on a different level. So that's how you connect with your toddler. And then stop with the mini therapy sessions when you're disciplining them. They're not about words. They don't want to talk about feelings or emotions or any of that garbage. That is for you. That is not for your toddler. They're all about consistent corrective actions. The mini therapy sessions are very patronizing, condescending, and they're just all about you. They have nothing to do with your toddler. Anyway, so I'm very opinionated on that, obviously. Number 5 is stop trying to figure them out. They're not figure-outable. They're forming. They're brand new, fresh human beings. They've got one marble and some tumbleweed in there. They're not figure-outable. They might even go like this and smear poop on the wall. For some toddlers, that's completely normal. So yeah, that's my 5 top tips for parenting toddlers. Gee, that's hard to say. Okay. Would you say that the tips work only for this age group? Yeah. Or does it work even with my age? Oh, do you know the number one people skill that I don't do it very well with adults, but I mean, it's not my focus with kids because I'm very maternal with kids. So I'm very good at this with kids, but make them feel good about themselves. Wherever you go with people, if you want people to like you and look up and want to please you and want to be around you, make them feel good about themselves. You know what I found with that with adults though, is when you get really good at that, it often ends up just being a one-way street. So that's what I found is quite different with adults. They can take advantage of that because no one else is doing it for them. So they find someone who's just trying to build them up and make them feel good about themselves, and there's nothing in it for me. It's got to be a back and forth. Then it's great. But yeah, if you're the only one doing it, then it's no fun. But that's with kids. You do that with kids. I don't mind just being a one-way street with kids because that's the maternal stuff, right? You're the adult. You're the leader. I don't want to be a leader in my personal life. I want to be a partner. I don't want to be a leader. I hate that stuff. So that's a leadership skill. Okay. I used it with my boyfriend and it worked. Yeah. It's an amazing tool and it does work beautifully. You just don't want to get stuck in the rut where that's all you're doing is trying to make them feel good about themselves. And then they'll get to the point, tell me more about me. That's why I'm single now. That's funny. Okay, parenting tips for 6 years and above and teenager. Well, they're very different. So you're in full leadership mode when they're 3 to 12. That's when you're full leadership mode. And you want to have fun with them. You want to be fun. You want to be best buddies with them. With their teenagers, they'll sort of have their own friends and then things will start to change. But I'll tell you my top 3 tips for parenting teenagers. I already went through it earlier, but you might not have been on here. So number 1 is you listen to understand and show empathy. You don't give advice. They already know it anyway. If they want it, they're going to ask for it. If you get really good at listening just to show understanding and empathy, they'll tell you everything. You don't always want to hear it, but they're going to tell you anyway. Number 2 is you negotiate pretty much everything with teenagers. Number 3 is you don't sweat the small stuff. Allow them to make mistakes just like you did. And that's okay. You save your energy for the big stuff. I just did a video today. I know I posted it. And it was how to raise problem solvers or something like that. And it's that you really don't want to be solving your kids' problems. You want them to learn how to solve their own problems. So you want them to be free thinkers, independent. You want to build confidence in them because you don't want them to be self-entitled snowflakes with mental health issues. If you're the pleaser parent who's trying to make life easy for them. So I think I called it, another way I called it is don't try and change the road. No. How did I word that? I can't. Teach your children how to, sugar. I can never remember it. Anyway, don't change the world for your kids. Teach your kids to adapt to the world or something. I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so yeah, what was I saying? Raise problem solvers. Anyway, here's what my mom used to say. I used to go up to my mom and I was really little and I'd say, Mommy, what should I do? I've got a problem. She always answered the same way. It used to annoy me actually when I was little. I wanted her to tell me what to do, but she never would. She would say to me, well, you're a smart girl. You can figure it out. And then we'd talk about it. And I always thought I was coming up with my own solutions. She was there guiding me along the way. But she raised, like I was a very confident kid. And that was because she raised me to be a problem solver, raised me to think for myself. You don't want obedient little soldiers. You want children who are independent and they think for themselves. You don't want to go out there in the world and solve their problems for them. You want to arm them with information and power and confidence to solve their own problems out in the world, to get along out in the world without you protecting them and, going to their bosses when they're adults even, you don't want to do that. The helicopter parent gets a really bad name, and I know what that is. I know what people mean by that. I was very much a helicopter parent with safety. I was a nutcase for safety. I didn't take any chances with my kids. But with the other stuff, if they were being bullied or they had a bad teacher, I would just say, nah, that's your problem. You figure it out. And then we'd talk about it, right? So I armed, but if it was safety, I was nuts with that. So, but helicopter parent is when you go, that's sort of the pleaser parent style in a way. You're always going out trying to save the day. Yeah, I didn't do that. How to make it up to a 4 and 3-year-old when you've lost your cool and yelled at them loudly. Okay, so if you yell at your kids, there's a consequence. You put it on the behavior board, no yelling, and there's a consequence. If parents are yellers, their rule is always no yelling. If you yell, you play with them for 10 minutes in their world. It can be kid-led play, whatever they want to do. Could be 10 minutes of hide and seek, 10 minutes of hopping on one foot, anything, whatever they want to do. So that's how you make it up to them. And I'll just tell you, there's 4 steps to apologizing, but it doesn't necessarily, that's sort of how you apologize. But just, this is for adults too, is no one knows how to apologize effectively. Even in you'll see, oh, I didn't even write it down. I always click on here. I just remember it. I didn't even write it down. I just wrote down how to apologize and I didn't even write it down. It's just for my own notes. Anyway, but adults don't know how to apologize. They'll do anything and they go, sorry. And then you go, yeah, but you did this. They say, I said I was sorry. You're not very forgiving. It gets flipped around on the person they did it to. It's I see that a lot with people. Anyway, so here's how you apologize. And you teach this to your children too. I did this with my kids and I used to say, and I'm very good at apologizing. And my son would always say, that's because you've had so much practice. It's very funny. But my kids are both good at apologizing too. There's 4 steps to apologizing. Start the ball rolling by saying sorry. It's just an empty word to me. I don't care about it. People overuse it. Anyway, say you're sorry. And then it's just start the ball rolling. Step number 2 is you say it was all my fault. I shouldn't have done that. Take full accountability for what you did. Don't say, I shouldn't have yelled, but if you hadn't done that, I wouldn't have had to yell. You see, it's often flipped around. People don't know how to apologize. They often turn it around on the other person. I've seen it all the time. Anyway, number 3 is you say, what can I do to make it up to you? You make amends. Say, what can I do to make it up to you? And if they don't come up with something, you come up with something. And then number 4 is don't keep doing it. If you keep doing the same thing all the time, all that apology was garbage. So yeah, say you're sorry. It was all your fault. And then you say, what can I do to make it up to you? And then don't keep doing it. That's how you apologize. Adults should learn that. Use your indoor voice instead of putting no, don't, stop. I don't understand that. Does my 2-year-old have to share everything of his? Only child, great share at school. 2-year-olds, they're only sharing at school because there's peer pressure and they will be forced to share because it's not their stuff, right? So, and they just learn that really quickly. But at home, that is their stuff. When they have friends over, I would suggest that you have an area that you can have an area where their favorite stuff is put away. Because I didn't like to share everything. I was virtually an only child. My brother was 16 years older. So I was raised with 3 adults in the house. I was the only kid in the house. Anyway, he didn't want to play with my Barbies. Okay. So anyway, but yeah, I had certain things I didn't want other kids to touch because I was very fussy. I still am. Everything I own looks exactly the same way it did when I first got it, no matter how old it is. So, but they would wreck stuff. And so I had really precious stuff that I didn't want other kids to wreck. So, but yeah, then I just made sure that stuff was put away. And that's what I did with my kids too. There was certain things they just didn't want to get wrecked. So we would put that away before kids would come over. So just put the stuff away and then have other stuff out that they can share. 2-year-olds don't understand sharing. Okay. They just don't. They don't really understand how to share or the idea behind it till they're 3 years old and 9 months. That's the switch that there's a switch that goes off. That's when they have the ability to understand empathy. How to help kids fall asleep comfortably, independently. Okay, I just have a brand new course out. Came out last week. Bedtime battles. Check that out. That goes from 2 to 8 years old. So check that out. I don't really like to talk about bedtime, mealtime, or school morning battles because it's a process. It's a big process. That's why I'll have the other two in courses, but right now I've just got the bedtime battles. But because it is a step-by-step process. Um, oh, constipated toddler. I can't answer that because I'm not a doctor. Phrasing your rules positively. Phrasing your rules positively. Is that a question? What do you mean by that? Um, if what you mean by that is you want to put a positive spin on everything, I don't like that. I don't like it. If you want to ask me why, you can, but mm, I really don't like that. I had a client who was a child psychologist, and they confronted me on that once. And yeah, they got a really earful, and then they backed off. I don't like it. Yeah. How does the empathy change between the age of kids? Well, I don't know. They won't all have empathy as much. Some really will, but when they're 3 years old and 9 months, they have the ability to understand they're not the only ones in the world. They start to look at other people and they, oh, you have feelings too. Or they just start to get it. No matter what you've told them before that, they don't get it. They can start to get it at 3. I always said it was 3 years and 9 months. I've been saying this for 52 years. And it was just the professionals came out with that in the last few years. They finally agreed with me. They said it was 7 years, 5 years, 2 years. Now they're saying it's 3 years and 9 months. I just read that a couple of years ago. Some scientist said, oh, it is 3 years and 9 months. Yeah, he should have just asked me. Anyway, I just see a switch in them. Doesn't mean they're going to have empathy, by the way. It means they have the ability to have it. Okay, which kids are more problematic, single child or those with siblings? It means nothing. The more problematic children are the ones without leaders as parents. That's all it is. And their basic nature. Some are easier going, or they just are. Some of us humans are just easier going than others. Hmm. My daughter thinks the only way she can connect with me is by not doing her homework. She is 16. Is by not doing her homework. Okay, I'm going to tell you a story. It's off topic, but it isn't. It's the age. A while ago, I had this client. I kind of specialize in trouble in. Well, I started my business working with teen crisis work and also kids, abuse and all that stuff. That was how I started my business. But anyway, so a while ago, I had this client, and she had a 16-year-old boy that she admitted she never really got along with. They just butted heads. So they never really got along. They were always at each other. And they were both stubborn and all this stuff. So anyway, he was 16. They just bought him a car, and he had to get to. They lived in somewhere where they had to drive a lot to get him to different sports things. They really wanted him to have his own car and drive himself. So anyway, he needed to get his driver's license. So every single night after dinner, the dad worked really long hours, and the mom every single night after dinner, she took him out for a driving lesson in his new car, and they fought like cat and dog. She goes, it was just like a war zone in that car every single night. And I said, okay, here's what you're going to do. On the behavior board, you're going to put your rule. You always start soft with teenagers. Their rule is dirty clothes in the hamper and nowhere else. You start slow with teenagers. It's not about him. This is about her, because you want to build connection with teenagers before you even get to the stuff that you're struggling with. That's why parents, when they first hire me with teenagers, they're always frustrated because I won't discuss the big stuff first off. We've got to start connecting and learning how to talk to your teenager. Then we can, about week 3, we start to deal with the bigger stuff. But anyway, so I said to her, I said, do you yell? And she goes, yeah. And I said, okay, so put down no yelling is your rule on the behavior board. Your consequence, if you yell, and I said, make sure it happens. Don't force it, but if it happens, and she goes, no problem, it'll happen. So anyway, her rule was no yelling. Her consequence was the next driving lesson that night when they went out, she was not allowed to speak unless it was life and death. Like, look out for that train. And she says, well, I can't do that. He needs to be told constantly what to do. And I said, no, he doesn't. And so anyway, so because that's why they were fighting, was she was just nagging him the whole time. So she said, and she finally agreed, but she said it's going to be really hard to do. So on her own, she decided to tape her mouth. And lots of parents have done this since I've told this story. But anyway, she decided to tape her mouth. And because she thought, there's no way I'm going to remember not to talk during the driving lesson. She didn't tell him she was going to tape her mouth. Anyway, so she goes to get in the car. She catches a glimpse of herself in the rear view mirror, in the side view mirror, and she starts to giggle. Well, then her son looks over. He sees the tape. He hadn't seen that before. And they both start laughing. And so the tape starts going like this. It's flapping in her breath when she's laughing. She said that was the most fun they've ever had together. And she didn't even speak. And I said, that's why it was fun for him, because you weren't even speaking. But anyway, they just had fun. And then we worked on all this other stuff. And it was the start of their beautiful relationship. You got to find a way to connect with your 16-year-old daughter. That was just a really good way it's always about connecting, always. And always. And that was the start of everything that we had to work on. That's how we started. And they just had a great time. I'll tell you another cute story. It's kind of off topic, but I'm all about connecting with kids and bonding with them. That was always my superpower. I was really good at connecting with kids, making them feel good about themselves. That's how I worked with so many hundreds of kids and troubled teens and everything. Anyway, this is really cute. I had another mom who was really struggling with her little boy. She'd never, the same thing. Sometimes you just lock heads with certain kids. You might have 6 kids, but one of them, they usually call them the black sheep, and they just lock heads with them. Anyway, her little boy, I said, okay, well, how often do you play with him? And she goes, well, she never does. And I said, okay, so here's what we're going to do. If you yell, it's usually yelling because parents yell. If you yell, your rule is you have to play, I think it was 30 minutes of Lego. I can't remember. It doesn't matter. If you yell at him, you have to play with him. He loves Lego. And she'd never played with him before. And I think he was 8. I don't remember. Anyway, so she had to play Lego with him for 30 minutes. So, and she said, okay, like she just never played with her kids. I always played with my kids. That's how you connect with them, right? So anyway, you can learn a lot about yourself when you get good at this. Find your inner child. Anyway, so the next session, she turned up and she was crying. And I said, what is it? And she goes, I didn't play for 30 minutes after I yelled. And I said, what? And she goes, I played for 3.5 hours. She sat with her little boy for 3.5 hours. She goes, he wasn't rude to me. He was kicking her and everything. He didn't kick me. He wasn't rude to me. And she goes, he even crawled in my lap while we were playing. So what does that say? It's about connecting. And then his behavior was beautiful. Just for that particular 3.5 hours. We worked on other stuff. But overall, their relationship improved immeasurably. So it is about connecting. Yep. That's exactly my problem. This is a 16-year-old daughter. All I talk about is her grade in school, and she hated it. Yep. Wouldn't you? Think about it. Are you making her feel good about herself? That's how you do it. You make them feel good about themselves. Connect with them. Enjoy them. They know when you're enjoying them. You're going to have to force it at first, but you'll get there. Anyway, if you want my help, you can hire me. Teenagers are almost always 5 sessions. If you can only manage one, it's better than none. But 5 sessions for teenagers. Okay. Yeah, wasn't that 3.5 hours gorgeous? I always cry too. I was talking to, I get child psychologists as clients too, because parenting's different. I couldn't do what they do, but parenting's personal. It's very different. And anyway, and then they said that I was crying. They were telling me something, and I just get emotional. And they said, in my profession, like as a child psychologist, we're taught not to show emotions. And I said, well, I can't operate that way. I'm not a child psychologist, so I don't operate that way. I said, it's really important for me to connect with my clients too. And she said, yeah, they're told not to connect with clients. So see, it's a very different kind of a dynamic. But yeah, and they said that actually helps them when they see that I get caught up in what they're doing too. That's why I love what I do. Anyway, you gotta feel it. Like I have to feel it, or else I wouldn't be doing this. I would find it boring. But yeah, I get very excited when parents tell me stories. Okay. 3-year-old daughter hits and throws everything what to do. Okay, she's out of control. So you want to work on your leadership, right? Then that does not happen. You can check out my behavior board. It starts at the age of 3. If that's not enough, then you get the toddlers who hit and bite, etc. You can go to that. I know 3-year-old, I always say is not a toddler, but in that course, it still works. So go to that. Or you can buy my course. It's how to set yourself up. It's the boot camp course, how to set yourself up as a leader in 5 weeks. 3 to 12-year-olds sets you up as a leader. It's never about the kids. Remember, we're not fixing kids. We're fixing and teaching parents here. Oh, I could tell you so many stories about clients. Oh my God. Um, I get the most gorgeous emails. I got a client right now. She keeps sending me emails that make me cry. The first time I read one of the emails I got from her, I was at the gym. I was so embarrassed. I cry really easily. I was so embarrassed. I was like at the gym crying. And but yeah, she just sends me these beautiful emails, just gorgeous, telling me about the success. And I always say, and she gives me credit for how things are going. And I say, no, no, I'm just guiding you. You're the one doing the work. She's the one doing the work. So yeah, I love my clients. Okay. We are teaching us, of course you are. You lead, they will follow. That's the whole point. Your children's behavior is 100% a direct result of your parenting. Until they're about 13 and up, then they're more swayed. They're going to test out different things with different people. But if you've been a really good leader, and you can still learn how to be a leader when they're teenagers. But it's more they take over a little bit too there. But it gets harder when they're teenagers, obviously. But it's still doable. But yeah, you lead and they will follow. It's just the way it works out. And that's the best news you can get. If their behavior is 100% a direct result of your parenting, then it's all up to you. You have so much more power than you realize. Even with teenagers, you have so much more power than you realize. I used to mentor violent teenagers, and I was amazed at how well this works. They were the ones who told me to do this. They said, you got to teach this stuff, Lisa, because no one talks to us like you do. So yeah, it's powerful. It just is. Leadership is all about making them feel good about themselves and guiding them into making good choices. That's your goal. Make them like themselves. And when they like themselves when they're with you, they're going to treat you like gold. They just do. Seven-year-old son has started being very defiant towards parents and teachers. What can I do? Well, check out my course, the boot camp course. But if he's just started at 7, something must have happened. It doesn't make sense. They don't find their power at 7. Something's happened. It might not be anything bad. It's just something's triggered him, because they find their power at 3, and then usually again at 9 to 12, or with boys 14 to 15. Girls find it again at anywhere from 9 to 12. Boys are about 14, almost 15. They find their power again, but they find different. They can, but yeah, for a 7-year-old, it doesn't make sense to me. What would have triggered that? Something would have triggered. If you want my help, you can hire me, or just check out the boot camp course. Make sure you've set yourself up as a leader. A lot of people do both. They buy the course and then they use that like reference, and then they want my help for there might be other things. They might have a lot of more complicated stuff going on. Then coaching works well with the course. But I didn't expect that, but a lot of people have doubled up with that. Why are so many of your tactics manipulative? Well, tell me what they are. Which one? Okay. How old are you, Rochelle? Are you a teenager? I don't know. Usually I can tell, but I'm not sure about that. Okay. Okay. He decided he doesn't like school this year, been defiant since. I think it's just a lot for him. Okay. So he's overwhelmed. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. If he's being defiant, but being overwhelmed doesn't necessarily lead to defiance. Being overwhelmed can lead to stress, or they talk to you more, or they cry more, but it doesn't always lead to defiance. So anyway, if you want my help with that, you might want to hire me, or just check out the boot camp course. Make them like themselves. Think about that though. If you're around someone who makes you feel good about yourself, would you ever be rude to that person? It's like impossible, isn't it? Think about it. Kids are no different from you, from us. If someone makes you feel good about yourself, you're just all over them. Right? That's your superpower as a parent. Make them feel good about themselves. Guide them into making good choices. You don't praise everything they do, but you guide them into making good choices. And when you are disciplining a child, it's very quick. It's like over and done. You get the bad behavior dealt with. Okay, I didn't like that. Here's the consequence. Then you say, you want to go to the park? You want to play a game? You're always trying to connect with the good kid. You focus on the good kid, but you deal with bad behavior. It's done. It's really quick. It's really quick. Even when they have 24-hour media blackout, a lot of parents are angry with their kids during that 24 hours. That's your opportunity to bond with them. 24 hours of no screens, do it with them and say, do you want to play a game? Because we've got no screens. I'm doing it with you. So do you want to play a game? No, I hate you. I hate you. Okay, fine. And when they calm down, ready for that game yet? You're always trying to, I don't care if they ever play the game. It's you. You keep putting yourself out there. Give, 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 give. Right? Ooh, what time? Oh, I've gone overtime. I usually try and do an hour. I did a half hour earlier. There was a reason for that, but I was on here for a half hour earlier. Anyway, go to the link above and you can check out my free behavior board, my toddler courses, my big boot camp course for 3 to 12-year-olds. And if you want to go to the next level, that's coaching with me. It's all done on Zoom, but 1 hour a week. Anyway, so that's it for tonight. I'll be back. What's today? Tuesday. I'll be back tomorrow sometimes. I never know what time it is except Tuesday nights, 7 p.m. Vancouver time, and Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Vancouver time. The rest of the time, I never know where I'm going to turn up. So, except now I'm going to have Thursday nights at 5 my time, Vancouver time, on Instagram and YouTube. Okay. Anyway, I have to go. Okay. Thanks so much for joining me, and we'll talk again soon. Bye now.